some information about dolphins. So, first of all, by now I'm going to assume that most of you guys know what Flipper is, correct? You guys all know the show Flipper. Now with that information, do you know who Rick Barry is? Rick O'Barry? Rick O'Barry, today I'm going to share a little bit more information, but while I'm talking to you about that, one thing I want you guys to think about is, do dolphins ever frown? Just keep that in the back of your mind, and we're gonna touch later on that. So first of all, what gives me a little bit of credibility is after seeing the show, what's called The Cove. It's a documentary about dolphins, and it really compelled me to do a little bit more research about the things that were spoken within this documentary. So with that, this is a lot of information that I found. Today, the information I'm sharing with you is about how Rick O'Barry introduced the idea of using dolphins in amusement parks and using them as entertainment. Additionally, I'll share with you how dolphins are murdered each year, and the effects of using dolphin meat sold as whale meat, and what that has to do on human health. When I'm finished, you guys will have a better knowledge of the unjust that's happening with dolphins and why they're being mistreated. So first off, a little bit about Rick O'Barry. These are some photos of Rick O'Barry. He was the main dolphin trainer for the show Flipper, along with another team that he had that trained these dolphins. Where he started is he brought in these dolphins and started training them for the show. He was actually one of the actors that went along with the show, where he would do the little hand signals and things that would make the dolphin do whatever the show needed them to do. Rick O'Barry then realized when a dolphin died in his arms that this is not the way that we should be treating these creatures. We should make sure that we treat them with love and respect, and make sure that we're not going to abuse them and use them to human entertainment. What he touched on is the smile of a dolphin. The way that a dolphin's snout or nose or whatever you want to call it, the way it's shaped, it's always shaped in the way of a smile. So as humans, you can tell if I'm happy, you can tell if I'm sad. But a dolphin, you never know if it's sad. It's always smiling. So he saw that nature's biggest deception was the dolphin smile. With that led Rick O'Barry into becoming one of the greatest dolphin activists that there ever is. He then was compelled to, the events that are in the documentary The Cove is what he is striving for in making sure that dolphins have safety and making sure that we're not abusing them as they have been. So now I'd like to share with you a little bit of information about what is happening to these dolphins in Taiji, Japan. Taiji, Japan has what's called a dolphin hunting, where what they do is a bunch of boats go out in a big long formation where they go out in the mating channels of where dolphins are swimming and migrating, and they put these big long poles on the side of their boats and they start banging them. So when they bang these poles on the side of the boats, it creates a wall of sound. Dolphins communicate by echolocation, so what that means is that if they have a bunch of noises that are going on in their heads, they're not going to know what they're going to do. So they frantically start swimming in the opposite direction of this wall of sound. The opposite direction of that wall of sound is what's called the cove. So the cove is located off the coast near a harbor in Taiji, Japan, where these fishermen round up all these dolphins and they leave them overnight. The theory behind leaving them overnight is when they then sell their meat later, when the dolphins are calmed down, that their meat tastes better than if they're frantically when they get murdered. So while they're in this cove, the next day they come and all of the dolphins get rounded up, they get pulled out of the water one by one. There's people lined up on the coast that actually look at them. If it looks pretty, sold. If it doesn't look pretty, then it gets left there. Once all the pretty dolphins have been sold to amusement parks around the world, in Mexico, in China, all these different amusement park places that purchase these dolphins, what's left over with the leftover dolphins? Well, these dolphins actually get slaughtered and murdered, where they take a pick and they jam it into the dolphin, rip it, pull it into the boat, and that's when the meat then gets sold. So the meat then gets packaged as whale meat. So depicted here, these are packages of whale meat that have actually been tested to be proven that they're actually dolphin meat. The reason why they can know that they're dolphin meat is larger fish eat the smaller food chains, which dolphins eat fish. So the reason why that is when pollution and stuff is up in the air, when it rains, it catches that pollution and puts it into the ocean. When plankton eats that pollution, which is also known as sometimes mercury is floating around in the air, that's the small food chain. So when each bigger fish eats that, it multiplies. So each combination of the food chain is now receiving that mercury poisoning. Dolphins, their main food source is fish. So dolphins naturally have a high potency of mercury in their meat. So the very, very lucrative business side of this is dolphins can sell for a lot of money for amusement purposes, whether they sell them to look at in an aquarium or if they look pretty doing tricks and things like that. But also whale meat is very expensive too. Whale meat has already been outlawed, but dolphin meat being sold has not. So that's why they can then package these meats and sell them as whale meats and still make money. So in conclusion, I told you a little bit about the history of Rico Berry and how he's led to this capsizing entertainment industry for the dolphins, and also sharing with you what happens to them in Taiji, Japan, and the effects of this mercury being in the meat. So with that, I encourage you guys to make sure that stay informed about dolphins. They're a great species, but I feel like we should not be keeping them in captivity.